Welcome to the Therapist Burnout Podcast, episode 106. Hey, therapist. Today, I'm talking with you a little bit about imposter syndrome. So, specifically, as it's related to certifications and why do we never feel like we're done? I think there's so many professions in life where it feels like they're done. Like they did their training, they got to the end and they're working. And maybe there's some education involved. I guess for me, working in a school, I kind of see this, and maybe I would ask a teacher and interview a teacher because I work in a school right now that if they feel like they're done, maybe they would come to the same conclusion. I'm guessing there's like math conferences where they have to learn new math, but no, probably not. Probably not the same as therapists. So I think we're going to talk a little bit about imposter syndrome. I'll have you look back at episodes 33 and 34 of the podcast. So it was a while ago. And I know that many people don't go back and listen to those first episodes. If you have been with me since episode 1, you are a unicorn and I love you. Thank you for being here. You are the best. I think my thesis on this is kind of that imposter syndrome drives so much what we do sometimes as therapists to earn all of the degrees, get extra certifications, and I would say overworking. I don't think every therapist does this, but I think therapists are uniquely prone to this. And when we hit burnout, I think it's devastating in some ways because our entire identity has been in working towards this goal to become a therapist, which is being a highly educated person and receiving all of this education and training. And then when it doesn't work out, I think sunk cost fallacy hits so hard. So I talked about this in episode 33 and 34 of the podcast. So thanks for listening back to that if you have listened to those before. And I talk about this stat. So 82% of people experience imposter phenomenon. They're trying to move away from saying syndrome because a phenomenon indicates that a lot of us experience this. And that's including our highest achievers. And I think therapist, you are a high achiever because not a lot of people would do this. Not a lot of people do this. We are unique. We are special. Research shows us that it's also linked to increased anxiety and depression. The work of Kevin Coakley. I would love to have Kevin Coakley on the podcast. I love him to hear him talk about impostering and imposter phenomenon because I think it's such a common experience that we all feel and something that is very common for therapists. And he noted it was especially prominent among BIPOC individuals in predominantly white environments, often compounded by fears of being seen as a product of affirmative action, perhaps. Trans and non-binary folks also experiencing higher rates of that too. I think we often fear that we're going to be found out. Like somehow I got through my doctoral training and my predoctoral internship and my postdoctoral training, and someone's going to find out I don't know it. I don't know enough that I'm not supposed to be here. And for me in burnout, I think that showed up pretty loud when I closed my practice and started working in a school-based setting, doing school psychology work. And I had never worked in a school before that. So there was a lot to learn. There was a lot to figure out. And I also have unique training. I am an EMDR consultant. And so I bring a lot to the table that many people don't have that training in that particular setting. But I think when I first got there, my brain was having a hard time braining. I'll just say that because I'm trying to go back into doing testing, which I had not done a lot of in the 9 years previous to that because I was doing primarily therapy. And so going from doing something completely different again, where I'd also been through like motherhood, and we know all the research on the changes in the brain in motherhood and postpartum and all of that. So I was trying to like know everything when it's not possible to know everything. It's just not possible. And I leaned on the people that I needed to, and I still stressed myself way out. And I think I hear this from therapists a lot. They feel like they're not knowledgeable enough. I've had people write into me so many times that tell me I am just a therapist. Like, I don't even know anything. How am I going to find a different career? Or how can I do something else other than one-to-one therapy? Feeling like they don't deserve to be here, feeling I think difficulty accepting some feedback about their performance or how they're doing, because it can feel like exposing or that someone's going to say they're wrong. And if I need to be the one to tell you this, please don't get feedback in a Facebook group with other therapists, because therapist Karen will show up to the party. Okay. 100% she's going to show up and tell you you're wrong. You don't know something. So this is not the environment for our vulnerable, tender hearts when we are questioning ourselves or our knowledge to show up in a therapist Facebook group and or Reddit thread, whatever your variation of it is. No, we're not doing that to ourselves, please. Also, I think we often compare ourselves to like the giants in our field, like the educational acumen of the top therapists that have written books and appear on TV. And they're like, well, I'm not an Ivy League therapist. I don't know that much. Well, yeah, the majority of us are not an Ivy League therapist. A majority of us are not a doctoral level therapist. So even for me, who's a psychologist, a majority of us do not have my training. A majority of us do not have a licensed clinical social workers training. So we know more than the general population. And still we struggle with feeling like we know enough. I think also this point, so when I came especially into private practice and there's no real feedback loop, I didn't have a supervisor anymore. I didn't have people that I would regularly, daily, like talk to clients about with. And when you don't have that feedback loop, I think your worth and your client's success or them getting better in therapy feels tied to you. And as we know, if you've been a therapist for some time, that can be pretty tricky. Yeah. So I think that the problem with this is that we're not mirroring back the work and our knowledge to other people very often when we're in independent practice. And so I think a lot of us can feel like we are missing something, we don't know something, and may choose to do a certification or training. And doing training is not a problem. So maybe you realize a knowledge gap, like I talked about in my last episode, where I talked about, hey, I really felt like I needed some better competency in a trauma modality. So I went to an EMDR training. I didn't feel quite competent, so I needed to do more training. So I did the EMDR training, EMDR initial training. So I was EMDR trained. And then through the certification process, in somewhere in the middle of that, I felt like I got this model. Definitely got it. So yeah, I think it takes some time to feel that with a particular model. But I think there's still this sense that we don't know something, and then other people might have this knowledge to help our clients, or there's something in what we're doing that might be wrong. I think many of us chose this field because it was something of a calling. It's not just a job. It's who we are. We are therapists. I can say therapist again because I am a therapist again. So I'm used to it now. I'm used to saying I'm a therapist again, which is weird. But I don't label it as my identity anymore. When people ask me what I do, I actually say that I'm a psychologist. I work in schools. And so I don't really lead with my therapist identity. So interestingly enough, we're really trained to hold space for other people and really not ourselves, not to talk about what we know as much. And I think when therapists aren't able to do something that was so core to their meaning of themselves, I think it can hit in this way that is profound. We put all of this time in education, and if you're doing advanced certifications and all of that stuff, what was it for? I think is a question we often are left with. And I think some of the voices that were especially loud for me in imposter syndrome and burnout. So when I was impostering in my burnout, I had these phrases that would come up time and time again. Like maybe I'm not cut out for this. I failed, came up a lot. That was really loud. And I worked so hard to get here. How could I have gotten it all wrong? I sat with that thought for years that I must have gotten this really, really wrong. How could I do something now that made me feel this way? That got me to the end of myself. How could I have gotten that so wrong? And I think when I think about all the money I spent on certifications, I'm feeling better about it these days because I have actually been using it, but not in so much a therapy context. I mean, I use that just a little bit, but I also have been doing more trauma-informed trainings through my district and using it in other ways. I use it in case consultation a lot in my district. So I feel like those skills are being utilized, which is helpful to me. But it's interesting. Oh, I told you guys I was going to tell you a story of my dog walker. So this was going to come first, but it's going to be somewhere in the middle. So I got this new dog walker and she's great. So I have a border collie, and apparently she lives with like 5 border collies, which I mean is perfect. Of course, I want you to understand my baby and all of her little things that she does as a border collie, and just a wonderful person. I could tell I would just, as soon as I met her, I was like, oh, you are awesome. And I was like, oh, do you do other work other than dog walking? And she's like, no, I do this full time. I was an ornithologist, which I had to look up. What is an ornithologist? So an ornithologist studies birds. And she said something to me that hit so hard. And she said, yeah, I just couldn't do it anymore. I was never done. And I was like, oh, that hits so hard. I think for a lot of us, we feel like we're never done. Like we will never arrive at our destination. And that is the arrival fallacy, of course. Like we feel like with our careers, we're going to arrive to a certain place where we feel like we've got it. We did it. And I think the certifications can add to some of that. It can add to feeling like, well, when I get the EMDR certification, I will feel like I know enough, or I'll feel like maybe I can charge full fee, which was my story. I can do X, Y, and Z, LLLP. We give ourselves all these stories about what we can do once we get to a certain point, when my kids are older, those types of things. And I think the antithesis of that is like, I have to be right in the present moment all the time, which is also not, it's not in our human capacity to stay in the present moment all the time. Like our human brains are distractible. So I think the best we can do is be present where we can and follow our interests. Maybe that means you still have to do some therapy work, but maybe it means you're going to start going in some other little directions that pique your curiosity, doing some other things. And if a certification makes total sense to you based on all of that stuff, I am not against it. I just want you to really like your reasons. So listen to episode 105 for that. I think another voice that imposter phenomenon, it's so hard to not say syndrome. What happens is that we often look at our peers. They seem to be doing okay. They seem to be able to manage a certain caseload. Why can't I handle that? What is wrong with me that I couldn't stay in my private practice, for example? That was something that I asked myself frequently. And I think the reframes that I would give you for that, number one, it takes a long time to get to a reframe. Why does it take so long to get to the reframe? That is the first thing I would offer, is that sometimes you just have to be like, I am stuck in this thought, and you know CBT, you know mindfulness-based strategies, I'm sure, but use them on yourselves. When you're just having a thought looping, try to distance yourself from that thought. Do not let that thought become tied to who you are. So do something to distract yourself, plead, borrow, and steal. I don't know what you have to do to get yourself distance, skate away from the thought, all the techniques that we have in our tool bag to do some distancing from thinking, whether that be using a visualization, noticing I'm having the thought, I'm having the story that I failed, all of those things to distance ourselves from that stuff before we can get to the reframe. 3 years later, am just getting to the reframe, just getting there. And the thoughts I have now today is that, of course, you needed a break. Of course, you needed a break. It was so much for you to go through. a pandemic as a therapist and as a mother of young children, it makes total sense. Then that wasn't something you could hold, and you needed to do something else for a while. I have so much compassion for Jen in 2020 to 2024. She and I send her so much love. And I'm wondering how you can send yourself some compassion with whatever you're feeling, whatever you're doing, because I know that some of the reasons why we choose to continue to pile on more of our on top of our burnout, and that's what that certification episode was about. Instead of figuring out what the actual problem is, we do more. So let's launch an online program. Let's change your practice. Let's do all of these things instead of pruning, taking things away, giving yourself time to think about what you really need. And so I would offer you that you can take more time. You can take time to figure this out. That if there's anything I would say, can we slow it down? Can we make it softer? Can we find anyone that can help you with the choices that you need to make if you're in burnout or just stuck? Because that sucks too. All right, my friends. So I am putting a newsletter together for you that I'm sending out before my vacation. So at the time, whenever this comes out, I might be on vacation. I might not. We don't know. We don't know where I'm going to be. It's going to be somewhere warm, but I have to wear a vest in April. I mean, that's not fair. Not fair at all for anybody. So that's happening. I will at some point go on vacation during this time. And yeah, but the newsletter, so it's been coming out once a month-ish, but I'm trying to do twice monthly. I'm having patience with myself to get into this rhythm of getting this out twice monthly, but I'm talking to you about time on the newsletter that's coming out this week. Let's say it's coming out in a couple days. I don't know when it's coming out, but you'll get another one for sure from me. So it's leaving the chair. If you're leaving the chair from overwhelm, overworking, and sometimes you're trying to leave the therapy chair too, because I get that. All right. I will see you on the next one. Bye.